Good afternoon. Welcome to Holmdel Community United Church of Christ. We are gathered today to celebrate a life of Robert Fredrick Buchbinder, or Bob as he was known here and perhaps for all of you. A few things before we begin. We have devices in the back for those who need hearing assistance. The ushers can give you one of these if you would like. I was a school teacher, so I can speak loud, I think, and clearly, but I just wanted to remind you of that. We also have a reception, a repast next door, which you're all invited to come to. And during the service, after the family members have spoken their words of remembrance, any of you here who feel so moved, I would invite you to come to the front, to the microphone, and to share any words that you would like to share at this time. We begin our service with what's called a soldier's farewell. Jesus said, "So you have sorrow now, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you." Amen. Our hymn, our opening hymn is "How Great Thou Art." That is hymn number 33 in your hymnals. That should be right in front of you and also on the screen. And it is our tradition here to rise in body, mind, and spirit as you are able.
Lord, my
may be seated. The family has chosen a few readings from our sacred text. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. And from Psalm 149, verse 4. For the Lord delights in his people. He crowns the humble with victory. And from Philippians, the 2nd chapter, verses 3 through 4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. Thinking of others as better than yourselves, don't look out for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. Amen. And now we will have words of remembrance from the family.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob. I am the son of Bob Buchbinder from Columbus, Ohio. My wife and I came here along with the rest of our family. My sister Linda and her husband Jim from California. My brother Craig and his wife Paige and their two boys Hunter and Ryder. We want to collectively thank you all for being here and sharing in this memorial and the celebration of my dad's life. And please join us for the reception that follows. We have some fun photographs of my dad. You'll, I'm sure, get a smile. When my dad became a widower in 2011, we were all very concerned that he wouldn't be able to transition. He had been married for about 56 years, and this led our family to have many calls, to have many meetings about what to do, and prayer. But as is so often the case, God does move in very mysterious ways. My dad connected and reconnected, I should say, and reestablished a friendship that had been dormant for 60 years. He and Prue formed a friendship that gave them both immense meaning and joy. My relationship with my father also began to grow exponentially. We talked 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for an hour. But I tell you that the conversations we had together often weren't about him. Just like you guys know him, it was all about other people, about mostly you, the people I didn't know in this church. He had so much joy having a second family. And having those connections and those relationships really meant a lot to him. So some of you knew my dad as a square dancer. Some of you knew him as a church member who would volunteer here at the church. He spent some time in a men's group. He was a neighbor. He was learning how to play mahjong. And he, of course, was an avid Yankee fan. And because of people like you, these were perhaps some of the happiest days of his life. So you didn't know my dad growing up. He was an extremely hard worker. Things didn't always go his way, and yet he continued to share and give and serve, which was a great model for all of us to see. Looking back, he worked much too hard to support our family and gave us things that we never grew up with. He gave us a pool in the backyard. He supported us in ways that required him to travel quite a bit into New York City, and yet he still found time to get to the baseball games, to get to the graduations, to be there for dinner. It really was wonderful how he was able to juggle all those balls in the air at once. I remember that he was a big Yankee fan, but of course I rarely ever saw him actually enjoy the pool in the backyard or actually enjoy a Yankee game because of his work schedule. My brother would attest to the fact that he would be sitting there in front of the TV, half asleep by the third inning. He'd be up in the morning and back on the bus to New York. So we were grateful to see that. My other fond remembrance of my dad happened on my wedding day. He did two very heroic things that day. One, a couple that we knew from Ohio, their car broke down. The wedding was over, the reception was over, they were hauling the food out. My dad called AAA, whatever it was, had their car towed, had the car repaired, made sure they had food to eat. They also came with a gift that got lost. They were artists from Ohio, and they made us something special, and the next day we couldn't find it. And after all that, to think that we couldn't find their gift, and we thought maybe perhaps we had thrown it away. So my dad, ever the servant, jumped into the dumpster and found it. So that's just the kind of guy he was. But these last 10 years were clearly some of the happiest days of his life. And in those years, he traveled, he volunteered, he lived very simply. He really needed nothing other than friendship from the people like you in this room. As for me, he taught me how to make a delicious, open-faced apple pie. He taught me how to play 500 rummy, but I could never beat him. He loved to paint ceramics. He liked to work on puzzles. He took walks with Prue. He was very thoughtful, remembering people's special occasions, and he had wonderful handwriting. The little things that you remember about people. The passage in the bulletin, about him being humble, it really is, I think many of you knew my dad here. He would come and do things in the church just because he felt like helping, because he felt like the reception area needed a fresh coat of paint or something. That's just the kind of guy he was. He struggled with many things in his life. He never let those keep him from getting to know people, and it was never a barrier for him to get to know and love people. I know that many of you helped him with his endless struggles with his cell phone and his computer. Many of you here gave him rides to men's group and doctor's appointments. We thank you for that, of course. We all lived out of state. We checked in with him. Thank God that Prue was here to help us. It was wonderful to see my dad so happy. Some of you know that my dad was a longtime follower of God, and he never wore it on his sleeve, but he always carried it in his heart. And shortly before he passed away, he was going through some health issues, and we talked about it. But you know what? He never complained about his health issues. That's just the kind of guy he was. He would tell me that these things did bother him, that these are the kind of things we live with, and it's temporary. And that passage that we were reading a few minutes ago, it really struck home with me. My dad believed, as I do, that what comes after this life, after all this pain, is so much more worth what we're going through now. And so because we know what's coming, it gives us an opportunity to share and love and serve people. And that's what he believed in. Paul, the author of much of what we call the New Testament in the Bible, he wrote that we shouldn't be preoccupied by this life, but we should look ahead. And he wrote, so we don't look at the troubles we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. This passage gives me a lot of healthy perspective, gave my dad a lot of healthy perspective for the hard things that come in life. And of course, this life will, not may, sometimes go poorly. And my dad had 91 years of some of those experiences. But I know that because of this family he had a lot of joy. So while none of us do life perfectly, my dad taught me that life isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be an opportunity to love people, to do meaningful things with the time we have, and to know that what comes next will be well worth the short 91 years that we may get. And I'm very grateful that he modeled that for me. Thank you.
It's going to be a tough act to follow, sorry. Just give me a second.
These are Craig's words. It's a letter. Dear Dad, you were my best friend and best man at our wedding. I could always go to you with anything, no matter what. And even though you didn't always agree with me, you would always listen and give me your 2 cents. To say my dad was a good man would be an understatement. He was an amazing man who always put others first. He was always patient, kind, and humble, even when dealing with the most difficult people. I am so proud to be his son, and I will miss him dearly. 2 words describe my father best: kind and loving. Dad always put his family first and was always there for us when we needed him. He was the patriarch of our family and always so proud of his children and grandchildren. In my mind, I can still hear him bragging about our accomplishments to another who would listen. You grow up strong, knowing your dad is your biggest fan and supporter. He was always teaching me how to fix things around the house, and I've tried to instill that in my children, which I think the lessons worked to a point. He would always show up to be my sporting events as well. As a couple of my boys' events, and again was a proud dad. To sum it all up, Dad was a humble man. I've no doubt he's looking down on all of us here in amazement at how much he is loved and fondly remembered by so many people. Our next sharing is from Linda. I'm checking in with Linda. Would you like me to go ahead? Yes, okay. Remembering you, Dad, is easy. I do it every day. I keep hearing a voice that says, grieve not for me, and to remember the best times, the laughter, the songs, the talks, the good life that we had was strong. Now to continue with my chin up, day by day, where the sun will shine through my mind, to know you are at ease and your soul is at rest. I am remembering all I was blessed with, a humble, loving father, to continue the traditions no matter how small. I will wait until the day comes to be together again. I miss and love you, Dad. Prue?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. To celebrate Bob's life. I've been overwhelmed with the last 3 months of the love and outpouring from everyone, whether it be phone calls or cards or food or taking me out to lunch or to the opera or wherever it was. We just had the best time, and I know you're all sharing your grief with me, and I appreciate it all. think everyone knows that our love story and how Bob and I dated as teens, and then we reconnected 60 years later. What you may not know is when we were kids growing up, my brother can attest to this, because of his last name, we called him Bookie. And then when we met again, I said, well, we can't call you Bookie, we're seniors. So I called him Schnooky. But this is not about me. I would like to read this heartfelt note from a 17-year-old young man. Dear Prue, I can't ever start to explain how much Bob has meant to me. My grandparents were always far away, and some passed away when I was very young. Bob filled that role for me. Seeing Bob in the stands at my football games or seeing him in church lit up my face. I couldn't wait to talk to him and tell him when the next game was, or how grateful I was that he was there. The more I think about it, the more I realize now that he was so extremely special. He was such an extremely special person and one of the most loving people I have ever known. He was like the grandpa I never had. I loved Bob so much and thanked him for being warm, caring, and nice to me these many years. I cannot attend the memorial service. I will be away at school. It's his first year in Michigan. But I know I will be praying for him that day. He taught me one of the greatest lessons of life, to be humble. And from now on, I will carry that humble paper in my wallet, just like he taught me. Love, Liam Hansen. Thank you. And please come next door so we can greet everybody. Thanks again for coming.
And so now we open up the space for any of you here. I don't think we can do people online, but I know people are listening to us. So please come to the front.
Nothing you said this morning surprised me at all. Bob has been with us and in this church for a few years now, and it has made us a better place, just having him around. And you would see him sometimes in a corner here and there or doing things. Sometimes he would be out with my husband, and they would be painting the railings, or I know they did the front porch of the manse where Reverend our minister is living now. And every time I come by, and he'd have something funny to say. And my husband can't be here today. One of his very best friends of 40 years has a memorial service today at the same time we had ours. So I said, well, I'll come here and you go there. So I know he would have wanted to be here. And they shared many things together, especially jobs. But I wanted to tell the people here in our church that you may not know this, but many times I would come in and I would see Bob sitting in the pews. Nobody else was here. And he was kind of working along, and I thought, why is he here all the time? Well, you may not know it, but these beautiful colors of these pews were redone by Bob 3 different times to bring the natural beauty of the color out. He did it so quietly, most people didn't know about it, but I did, and I wanted to share. It's just so like him, isn't it? The word humble just has a special meaning when you meet Bob. He was such a beloved person and a loving person, and we are so grateful we had time with him. Thank you.
Absolutely. Janice is so right about that. My name is Don, and many of you know that about 10 or 12 years ago we did a construction project here at the church where we rebuilt the entire fellowship hall and the office space. And in addition to staining pews, Bob was very after. His fingerprints are all over this place in multiple buildings. Bob and I and Bob Liebenow and several others in the church were here pretty much every day during the project because we did some things ourselves to save some money with the contractor. So we painted the entire building ourselves. But Bob and I, there are 36 new doors in that building over there. Bob and I painted every single one of them. And I don't have my prop with me because I was going to bring it and I forgot. But if I did, it would be a 1-inch paintbrush. Because I said, Bob, why are you painting big things like that with a 1-inch paintbrush? And he said, it's much more precise that way. So he insisted on it. So I called him the king of the 1-inch paintbrush. But he was here every day on his hands and knees pulling staples out of the floor with several other of the folks from church here every single day for months and months and months, helping me, helping Bob. And so he was such a good human being. And as you heard from the letter from Liam, he was beloved by not only those of us who are older, but the young folks in the church too. And he will never be forgotten, and I'm going to miss him very much.
So we're going to ugly cry through this a little bit, but or a lot. So I'm Prue's niece, and Bob. When I first heard about Bob, it was a phone call. Hey, your aunt met somebody online. I was like, oh, God. I don't want to judge anything. The story gets worse. So, no, it's fine. They dated in high school. Bob was a senior. He's friends with Uncle Gary. They were best friends. But Prue, he took Prue to the prom. So a little quick math, which is my strong suit. And it dawns on me that Prue is about 13. So we're not calling the police at this point, but I am a little more alarmed than I was prior to she met someone online. Then we met Bob. And one of the very first outings that we had, my kids were about 3 and 5, and we went to a balloon fest. And the balloon fest was amazing, as you can imagine, super fun, until it poured unlike anything God has ever unleashed on this earth. And my kids also, like Liam, grew up with one set of grandparents, the other set not so much. And for those of you who don't know, Bob had a slight stutter. Well, when a 3-year-old grabs his hands and goes, "Can you be my grandpa?" Humana. Like, you've never seen him stutter more. But it was such a great moment, and that really just was a catalyst for how my kids feel and felt about Bob and how they continue to feel for him today, which is why we're all blubbering idiots in that row. Anyway, so, one of the things, too, that I think is understated is how involved Bob's 12 years with Aunt Prue have been, to a point where he's like, yeah, I'm square dancing, I'm quilting, I'm churching, do you breathe? Because I feel like you need to blink twice and let me know that you're here of your free will at this point. Like, it was just always about, Prue has me running here, and Prue has me running there. And now we're going on a trip, and I was like, Bob, do you have a say? Are you okay? So we don't have DYFS for adults, but, he was in very good hands, to say the least. Thursday before he passed, my daughter Emma and I sat with him, and he was we were kind of blubbering about kids and everything else, so my Emma and his Emma and everything in between. And it's really funny to me that, that day we were talking specifically about how much he's done in the past 12 years. And I don't mind having a week off at Deborah to kind of regroup a little. So that's just, a little funnier side of Bob and who he was and what he brought to our life. And I think all of us, there was a saying I read once, and it couldn't be more true about somebody like Bob, but, when you cry after someone passes, it's only because of the love that you haven't gotten to say them more about. So we all love Bob a whole lot in this room, and it's super awesome.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Garrett Sutphin. I'm Prue's brother. I've known Bob many, many years. We started out together as friends in the D. Malay. I was 12 years old. I am now 88, so I knew him a few years. Many, many times we had very, very good times. And I can remember he had a 34 Ford with no floorboards. No, seriously. And when people got in the car, there was cardboard on the floor, and the beams in the car were marked, so you knew where to put your feet in order to step. One of the best ones that I remember is Bob and my sister. She went to Lincoln High School, and he took her to her prom. And he pulled up with his car in front of our house. And my father said to him, "No way in the world are you taking her in that car to your prom. Here's my keys. The car is 3 days old, and I will be here at 12 o'clock when you come home." There were many, many, many good times. And he got married. I was in the Navy, and we parted ways, It's just a way of life, You're friendly with somebody for years and years, and then all of a sudden, they're not part of you anymore. And then he met up with my sister again, and we became the best of friends again. And it wasn't hard. It was very easy. And I'd just like to say that I have very, very, very good memories of him. Thank you.
Before we sing, let's breathe. Let's take in a few breaths as I see and I hear that many of you are moved to tears, as I am. I would like to share two short memories I have of Bob myself. When I was trying to decide whether or not to accept the call here, Prue and Bob met me at lunch, and I was trying to weigh, where is God calling me? And the image I have is the two of them leaning forward at the table. And Bob, in this very intense, quiet way, "When are you getting here?" And I was like, wow. He's reading something. He's expressing himself. I got to pray with him also, right before he died. I called him on the phone and I said, Bob, I'm here. I know you're going in for surgery, and what can I offer to you? He goes, well, don't you know you're the pastor? Bob was pretty funny. I said, well, yes, I do know that. Kind of like a menu. What prayer would you like? He said, you know, the Lord's Prayer. So we did the Lord's Prayer. So I don't know all the other stories of his painting, but I do know the amazing love that he has given to this congregation that is reflected in these stories, and I now see interwoven into these families now joined together. So with that, let us rise and sing It Is Well With My Soul, 561. And there are hopefully some hymnals up front. If you're without one, there's 2 of those under that thing over there, so we can all sing together. You may be seated. I also would like to invite you, if you wish, to come forward to light a candle for Bob. And Bob, we're going to pray the prayer that is the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. You may continue to come up and light candles. This is a reading chosen by the family. The Happiest Heart by John Vance Cheney. Who drives the horses of the sun shall lord it but a day. Better the lowly deed were done and kept the humble way. The rust will find the sword of fame, the dust will hide the crown. Aye, none shall nail so high his name, time will not tear it down. The happiest heart that ever beat was in some quiet breast that found the common daylight sweet and left to heaven the rest. Our closing hymn is Song of Farewell. I believe it is a song special to the family, and so please rise in body, mind, and spirit as you're able. The words are in your bulletin. Our loving and eternal God, the one who knows our heart and from whom no secret is hidden, we come before you with all the sorrow and pain that is in our hearts today, for we have loved Bob and we will miss him. We bring our grief, our sense of loss before you. We also come before you with a sense of hope and expectation. We commend him to you as you welcome him home. Amen. Our last song, benediction song, is Amazing Grace. And I'd like to invite the family to exit first and find a way to line up in the hall so that people can greet you.